All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Up in the Air.stream. And in this episode, we are going to be installing two new Odyssey AGM batteries on our 2022 Globetrotter forward bunk twin. So I'm going to go over a couple things here real quick before we dive into this project. And it will kind of be a step-by-step, even though as a disclaimer, I'm not instructing you or teaching you how to do this or giving you a step-by-step tutorial on how to install these batteries, as I might do things that are incorrect or might leave out some essential steps that could cause your camper some damage, and especially if you're not taking the proper precautions. So do your own research. I hope this does help you, though. I think it will, and that is the purpose of the video. So let's talk a little bit about AGM batteries, and I'm just going to pan around here, and I'll probably put some graphics up just to kind of further demonstrate what I'm talking about. But AGM batteries, they are what pretty much comes with the Airstreams these days. As of maybe 2020, a lot of folks will get the solar upgrade because it makes sense. A lot of them are ordered that way. A lot of people order them that way. And that will get you the upgraded AGM batteries. And then these days, it's becoming 2023 and 2024 models that are quickly being showing up on dealerships here soon. They are probably most likely going to be coming with the Battle-Born batteries on a more consistent basis, just because there is a lot of advantages. But we're going to talk about that. Let me walk out here. I have some notes, and I am going to make mention of the fact that I do have a professional relationship in the past. No longer is the case these days, and I'll definitely tell you why. With Odyssey batteries, we were previously sponsored by Odyssey Battery, and they had been gracious enough to really be instrumental with us getting batteries from them and putting them in our little teardrop trailer, our little overlanding teardrop trailer, and then also our FJ Cruiser here. And at that time, we actually had 4 of these batteries between the two vehicles. We had 2 in the FJ Cruiser and then 2 in the back of that little teardrop. And they really worked great. So, I mean, I can't tell you all the details, obviously, in a video like this, because it is going to be a long video as it is, but I think things are worth being mentioned. That we had a relationship, and we do have previous experience with these batteries, actually quite a bit. Now, I do have an AGM battery in the FJ Cruiser. Is no longer an Odyssey, and the second battery is no longer in there, but the timing could not be better as I'm getting ready to do this video, that it is, in my opinion, that this AGM battery that was an Advanced Auto battery, probably made by North Star is my guess. I don't know that for sure, but it was like their brand of an AGM battery. It's not even worth showing. It's not a bad battery, especially if you own one. They make the Die Hard battery these days, which I couldn't figure out. It might be made by North Star, but so I ordered a battery for it today, and it ended up being $400 for this battery that I got for Odyssey from Amazon for the FJ Cruiser. And I know you're not here to learn about the FJ Cruiser, but what I wanted to tell you, though, is the AGM battery that I bought from Die Hard, or from Advanced Auto, a while back for the FJ Cruiser as a replacement to the Odyssey battery, it has lasted quite some time. And I don't have records, which is totally unlike me, but I think it was about 6 years old. And that was with it being killed a couple times, because unfortunately I didn't have the barn out here to plug the FJ in. I think I killed it a couple times, which is never a good thing on a battery. It really does shorten the life. And you need to do your research on that and basically figure out how you're going to prevent that from happening. But I just wanted to give you that history. Our previous Odyssey batteries, I don't know why, but I wasn't really so much in the know back then of the fact that you don't want to reduce your batteries down to 12.1 or really 12.2 or less, your AGM batteries. And that happened a lot with our previous little overlanding trailer. And even though we had a generator and stuff, we would let it run overnight and not let the generator run And there was times that we would wake up and it would be less than 12 volts, and those batteries took it like a champ. So let's talk about the specifics when it comes to why buy Odyssey over the other batteries. But a few little housekeeping items real quick. So we did order some from AutoZone because they are a dealership or a distributor of the Odyssey battery. Total fail. I'm not trying to badmouth them, but yes, I am. It just needs to be mentioned that after 5 days, they canceled my order with no good reason. So not only was it, delayed, but then after 5 days, they just canceled it and they said, sorry, it's no longer available, even though they were still selling them on their website. And I called them. I said, hey, you guys are still selling these batteries that you claim are no longer available. So that was disappointing, and that's why this really has become like a 15-day, almost, I think we'll be coming up on now with the delivery, like a 20-day acquisition of these batteries, which is ridiculous because, I ordered them, and then I ordered them from directly from Odyssey at the odysseystore.com, on odyssey.com, and their store function. Okay, so let me talk about that. After 5 days, them claiming that it was going to be like basically 3 business days before they shipped it out, I was a little concerned, and we have a trip coming up. So I was like, let me call them. Couldn't find a phone number to save my life. Couldn't get really an email. Since then, I've kind of figured out where to get those, but it's nowhere on their website. Very poor. I finally found a number that was on one of the tech sheets that actually got me to where I wanted to go instead of directly to Intersys headquarters. And so, I'll post that number for you because they probably still don't have that number, on their main website. After calling like 3 different functions in that number, leaving voicemails, I never received a phone call back. I'm sharing this because it's important that you know what your experience might be. It is a disappointing aspect of Odyssey batteries, I can tell you that. And I actually talked to some really nice folks with the headquarters company, and like, hey, where do I talk to anybody about this? And they work for the headquarters unit and where they're made. And I think these batteries are actually now made in Westchester, Ohio, which is right down the road from us, which, I was happy to tell them, like, hey, I see you guys right from the interstate, right from I-75, which is exciting, especially with our history with them. But they are built in the USA. I'm going to put that phone number up there. They end up actually shipping out of West Coast batteries, so that was kind of weird. Like, I guess they just use a specific distributor to send out their .com orders directly off their website, and that's okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, other than the fact that it was delayed and no explanation, and then customer service is just absolutely a fail. And then they say the sales are final, so I couldn't even cancel it because I could have ordered them off Advance. Believe it or not, you can order these off of Advance Auto as well. The one I ordered for the FJ Cruiser is coming from Amazon, so who knows who's fulfilling that, but it'll be here in 2 days. And I have more confidence in that than ordering directly from Odyssey.com, which is disappointing. All right, so I know that was a long rant, but if you can't get the batteries, you need to know your strategy on how to get these batteries, and there's a couple different ways to do it, and I just want to make sure that you know what to expect. All right, so what is the benefit of the Odyssey battery? Well, for one, if you needed, versus a Battleborn battery, if you needed on a trip to replace one of these batteries, actually you'd pretty much have to do both because you couldn't get the exact battery. You most likely won't find a Odyssey battery sitting on the shelf, just like a Battleborn, but you could always replace them both with a 24 series AGM battery. And why is that important? Is because if you do end up changing over everything, kind of configured, even though it's pretty easy to configure stuff back to AGM from your lithium batteries, You could do that, but it would take an additional amount of time, and there could be a scenario where maybe it's not that easy for you to do. So once you go lithium, just keep in mind that if you have lithium battery go bad, that it's going to be harder to replace on the road, especially if you're a full-timer and all of a sudden now you're on a trip and you need a battery. I had looked at going with some 6-volt batteries initially. I know some folks do that. That even to me is more case in point that you may not want to do that, because if you go with the golf cart battery style sort of configuration or a 6-volt like Battleborn battery, if you have one go down, you're done, and you're going to have to replace them, with something different completely. And just keep that in mind as well. So a couple different aspects there, and that's all. Leave your comments if you have any thoughts about that in regards to availability. You can get like die-hard 24 series AGM batteries at Advance. I think those are made by North Star, like I was saying earlier. All right, they do have a 3-year warranty, the Odysseys. They're 2-year. AutoZone claims they have a 3-year warranty if you can get them from them. Once again, I'm dinging them. So also you can turn your cores in and get a little bit of money for your cores if you get them from like AutoZone or Advance and have them shipped to the store. The Odyssey batteries will accept a higher rate than normal AGMs because they are more of a pure virgin lead, never used lead before, and that is important. So like the DC to DC charger that we have on the Armada here, that's gonna take a charge faster. And also, now that we've expanded on our previous video that you might have seen where we extended our solar panels, so that was a previous video that we did. They can be charged at low and cold temperatures, and the Battleborns can, but they do have a internal heater that does take some of that energy to maintain their heat. So that is not a thing. The cycle application does allow for a 2-year warranty from them, and it's actually that's a 4-year starting application from AutoZone. So if I was to have ordered, not that I'm going to anymore, but no, AutoZone had their chance. If you do get it from AutoZone, you'll have, if you're using it for a starter battery, it'd be 4 years, and then AutoZone warranty is 3 years. So Odysseys are rated at 400 cycles or at 80% use, which is very impressive. It doesn't sound like much, but that does, and that's what I would say that has been our experience as far as, like I said, the longevity of them has been worth it. They are expensive, but you do get more than twice the usage out of them, in my opinion. And if you actually keep it above 50% and you don't discharge them to the 80% mark, I know this can kind of be confusing, but let's say that you treat them like you should and not lower that voltage below 12.2, 12.1, you'll easily get way over 1,000 cycles, which is huge. The thing about it is that you don't get as much usable application as you do with the lithium. So if you are a boondocker, lithium is the way to go. There's hands down. But we don't boondock that often. And we have a generator that we keep with us, and we have a DC charger, and we have solar. So we have a lot of ways to maintain these batteries. My thought was, instead of spending the almost $2,000 on the Battleborns, I would just get AGMs, because really they've worked just great. But the reason why they failed is because nobody took care of them prior to us acquiring this trailer. That's the thing. I'm gonna walk around here so you guys don't have the same view. That is the thing. These batteries, they sit in the camper on a lot, on a dealership lot, and they don't have them plugged in. They do, they end up degrading in their charge, and then your batteries go bad, and they're already being abused before you even get your first, before you even take receipt of the trailer. Then you might have it maybe serviced, at the dealership, and they leave it in the lot for 2 weeks and they don't plug it in. So that's not good. So if you ever have your trailer serviced, you need to make sure and ask them, hey, are you going to plug my unit in, to keep my batteries topped off? So that's something to keep in mind as well. And so, yeah, that's what happened to these. I mean, it's a 2022, so we're looking at, these batteries are somewhere between 2 to 3 years old, which is okay, but obviously they would have lasted a lot longer. And I'm also admitting that I may have discharged them lower than that myself at times, but yeah, but that's where the Odysseys come in. They're more durable. All right, so that's about all I'm going to talk about with the AGM batteries. The one thing I do want to say too, though, and I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you all the benefits of the Battle-Born batteries. They do have a little bit more protection because they have sort of an internal battery management system, and they're lighter. So if we're nowhere close to the tongue weight capacity of the Armada. It's a beast. We've been extremely happy with this vehicle, and it really does a nice job of towing this 23-foot key. 23 foot. I would not tow a 25-footer with it. I would not tow a 27 or a 30. I mean, it's just amazing what some people do with their tow vehicles, and they don't do the right thing. So we won't talk about that too much, but this has been good. But if you're going to put your batteries back in the tongue box and you buy the Battle-Borns, you are going to save a pretty good amount of tongue weight. It's hard to say, obviously, depending on your weight distribution hitch and then also the length of your trailer. There's a lot of things that go into it, but they are lighter, and so keep in mind that will be a benefit for you to switch from AGMs over to the Battle-Borns if you are close on your tongue weight already. And then obviously your overall towing capacity is something to keep in mind as well. All right. I am going to take since these batteries are en route right now and they're on a UPS truck heading this way, I'm going to go ahead and start prepping for putting these batteries in. And then we're 17 minutes into this, but I wanted this to be part of the video. I'm going to go ahead and take off our propane tanks, and we are going to take advantage of having everything off, the tanks, the cover, and we're going to make sure we're going to do a little rust proofing and also spray a little bit of fluid film or AMS Metal Protector HD. So let me show you that next. All right, so that was good timing. Just kind of got things opened up here, and next thing you know, the UPS truck showed up. So this is the 2 boxes right from Corona, California. Just gonna kind of document here how they showed up. This box over here is kind of ding there on the corner. This one is kind of sliced there in the bottom. So they obviously they're heavy, and they are going to take some abuse. So we'll get these things cracked open here and see what they look like on the inside. All right, so I had the batteries out of the box here and boxes, and a couple things that I would recommend doing. Obviously, you want to pull them out, look at all sides, make sure there's no cracks, make sure the terminals aren't loose on you. These are pretty durable batteries. I mean, they're rated at military specs, which really doesn't mean much, but they are known for their durability. I will say that. One of the things I did also, and I recommend doing, is for you to take your multimeter and put it on volts DC, obviously, and check what the voltage is. One of the batteries had 12.9 volts, and this one actually only has 12.2, which is right at the 50% mark. So that's kind of disappointing a little bit, but definitely not in a danger zone per se, because it's at 50% capacity right now. So in my opinion, it wouldn't be considered to be over discharged. But anyways, I think it's good if you get one that's over discharge. I'd call them up. One of the things also in the past that I've seen on these batteries after having owned a few of them is usually there was a manufacturer date sticker on them, and I've looked everywhere and have not found that. There is serial numbers. I would recommend taking pictures of those serial numbers. I'm not going to show you mine, but I would take a picture of that as well. I'm half tempted to call and see if I can get referenced on how old these batteries are, just because I don't want to install them if they're like over 6 months old. So yeah, I think I will. I think I'll try that. All right, so I left a phone number, or a message that is, for Intersys or Odyssey Battery to give me a call back. The number I had called was this 1-800-964-2837 number, and that is the number that will get you to the actually Odyssey. Not that you'll find that on their website, so I thought I'd mention that. But so I have this, while we wait for them to give us a call back, I had left a voicemail for 2 departments. Last time I left a voicemail for 5 departments and didn't receive a single call back, so I'm not holding my breath on this one. And you probably wonder, like, why are you still buying their batteries? I've had great luck with them in the past, and in my opinion, everything else is just not proven in my book. Kind of put my endorsement on them, but we'll see how this goes, because I really want to know how old these batteries are, since there's no stickers or indications on how old they are. So, but I want to show you. I do have the tongue here open, and I have some light on the subject. This is our battery box. Obviously, the batteries that I ordered, actually the terminals are reversed, so everything is kind of going to be reversed in here, which won't make any big difference because the leads are plenty long enough. So instead of everything kind of being justified to this side, I think it'll just be justified to the other side. So I'll figure out a strategy. Obviously, these batteries are 12 volts and they're wired in parallel. But I do recommend, taking off your cylinders, your propane cylinders, and the shroud, and then even like the regulator up here, just kind of gently lay it down as well. I had previously had protected underneath here with fluid film, and you can tell just how clean it is. And before I button it back up, I'll do the same. I don't want to do it now, obviously, because I'll get greasy. But fluid film or AMS metal protector, let me show you that real quick while I'm thinking about it. So there is the heavy duty metal protector. They make a more of a clear product as well that you've seen me use in previous videos. I'm going to use some of that AMS Miracle Wash. I know I'm kind of plugging the AMS stuff, but it is nice stuff. It works good. I'm going to use that on the shroud here. It is unfortunate that you will see, basically wear or marring from your jack, just because they literally rub up against each other. I'm half tempted to put some 3M helicopter tape on there in that spot, and I think I might, because I have some in the house, and it'd be a good chance to put some on there. So once I get that cleaned up, I'll be able to see exactly where it's worn in the past, and I'll be able to do that. So let me talk about another point here. So I had thought that my terminal is going to be reversed, as I just previously mentioned in the video, and actually, I don't know how. The thing about ordering batteries and knowing orientation of the polarity is it is very confusing, I think, for most people, including myself. They will say stuff like positive on left top or negative on left top, stuff like that. That, is that the rear of the battery? Is that the front of the battery? I mean, what are we looking at here? Because there's decals, on both sides of the battery. What's the front? What's the back? That type of thing. Is it the orientation as you can read the top label? Most likely. So with all that being said, I had ordered these batteries and thought for sure that I'd order in the ODP batteries. I thought, and I'm pretty sure that's what I ordered, is the OD. These are ODXs, and oh shoot. Alrighty. Well, they may have actually fixed my mistake because, all right, let me show you something here. This is always fun. This is why I do these videos, because I love this stuff. Like, seriously. So I had ordered the ODPs just like I'd shown there, and now I'm just looking at this packing list, and I basically had a little rant there. I'd said, tried to order from AutoZone. They canceled my order after waiting 5 days, stating my Group 24 Odyssey battery is no longer available. I would suggest looking at how AutoZone is conducting business, and judge what you want. That's just me. I tell people what my experience has been. I'm a longtime user of products, been actually sponsored by you for years ago, and I will be doing a YouTube video at up in the Airstream, or up in the Air.stream, for my Airstream travel trailer install. Now, I don't know. Let's just say, for a second, that they read my note and they knew that what I really needed was the ODXs and not the ODPs. Because I had ordered the ODPs, and as you can see there, they crossed out ODP and put ODXs. If that's the case, man, I'm impressed. Like, seriously, I got to give credit where credit's due. Like, if they overrode my order and literally gave me what I really needed, because the polarities match. I'll be able to just pull these batteries out and make all my connections again. So I'll do one side and then I'll do the other is what I'll do. And then I'm going to show you how I'm going to isolate these connections, basically, so that you don't get any fuses blown, because remember that you have still power coming to these batteries, not just going out, because you have. And I am going to unplug it from the shore power because you don't want the converter being involved. And I am going to unplug it from the vehicle, so you don't want your DC charger being involved. Unfortunately, I do not have an isolator switch for these batteries or a solar power array isolator. So that would be a real good reason why to install one of those is like cases like this where you're changing out the batteries. If you wanted to throw that switch, you would isolate these batteries. Unfortunately, Airstream does not put an isolator switch on these batteries. They have obviously they have the isolator that you inside the coach where it's a battery disconnect, but it doesn't isolate the batteries. It's a battery disconnect from those common DC loads. And I think it also, well, it doesn't disconnect from the converter, so it's just your loads. That's all it's disconnecting is from your loads. So hopefully that didn't confuse you too much, but just keep that in mind. You need to make certain that you don't allow these leads to basically touch anything metal or touch each other, because you will blow some fuses in the process. All right. So another thing I wanted to show you, I had thought about it, was to break out a couple of these little Genius chargers. And I highly recommend these as well. I know I recommend a lot of products, but they're based out of Ohio, I believe, these days. And they were made in the USA for a while, which is surprising. But I had that's a 1.1 amp, which is pretty small. But this 3500 here is a 3.5 amp charger. And I had two of these, but one of them is not working correctly. It's probably one of the first ones I bought, so I've had it a number of years. But the reason why I wanted to show you this is because while we are disassembling the other battery and getting it ready for the new battery, I think it's smart for you to go ahead and put it on a charge, to put some juice in there, and also to verify that it's going to take a charge. Because one of the really good thing about these No-Code Genius, and they're not exclusive in this at all, because you probably have a smart battery charger already to top off batteries or maintain batteries, that you have around so that they don't go below that low voltage. It will do AGMs, but also it will give you like a estimated capacity. And this one was lower than the other one, just as I predicted, but it's coming up on 50% now, which is, like I said, it's a little disappointing because the other one went to 50% almost immediately, the 1100 charger over there. it will blink. It's still saying it's not quite there yet, but I just put these on here. So, but yeah, being that they are smart, to finish that thought, I know I kind of get sidetracked in my thoughts, but to finish that thought is that because these Genius batteries are smart chargers, if there is something that is not correct with the battery, like a dead short or something that maybe it's over discharged or not able to take a charge, it will flash and alert you that there is an issue. And then it's nice too, I think, you know, it would have been nice to maybe see these get plugged in and them automatically being at 50%. We'll still see if we get that phone call back about, you know, from tech support or warranty. I put a call in to both of them and asked for them to give me a call back. So I'll include that in the video if I do get a call back, and let you know exactly how old these batteries that I received from West Coast Batteries. They're the ones that shipped them. The first thing that we did was we took the wing top here with this mounting plate for the batteries off, and then that's pretty obvious, but I wanted to show you the fact that you need a 13 and a 14 millimeter wrench. Now, one of the things that I try to do, this is my Blue Ridge Overland tool roll back from our overlanding days, but we still carry it with us these days because it's a great setup. It's a shameless plug for them, but they are a great USA made company, so nothing China made here at all. And but getting back to it, like 13 and 14 is what you're going to want for these two nuts. It's common that, you know, batteries have different size terminals on purpose to avoid mistakes as much as possible. But what I was getting at with the tool roll is I found that I did not have a 13 millimeter wrench. This one is now permanently going to live in the tool roll because I try to, like, something that you might want to try to do is that whenever you work on your vehicle or you work on the Airstream, try to use the tools that you actually have on the road with you at all times. And when you find that, oh wow, I don't have a particular wrench that I really need, then put one in your tool roll, because, you know, there's going to be that day when you're going to need that 13 millimeter, and here you don't have it to even take your batteries out. So that's just a little lessons learned type thing. I always try to preach that, to work on your vehicle when you're doing stuff like this with the tool roll and not your big tool chest that you're not going to have with you while you're on the road. So we're over here at the battery box, and I wanted to show you something that you're going to have to make your own best judgment, because it's not really something that is like an industry practice that I know of. I was just not sleeping one morning, and I was like, how am I gonna insulate those terminals as I switch that battery over? So I've taken this one loose here, and what I've done is I've taken a Ziploc bag with those loose terminals and one of these bungee balls and just wrapped it around the bungee ball. Now keep in mind, Ziploc bags are not that thick, and if you bump one of these terminals hard enough and there's a sharp edge and you ground it out, you know, it's going to spark and you could blow a fuse. But if you're gentle with them, in my opinion, it's going to keep your wires bundled up and where you want them and organized while you are making this transfer. So we're going to take this battery out first, and I'm going to loosen up all these leads, and I'm going to bundle them up in my Ziploc bags and my bungee balls, and then I'm going to pull this battery out of here. So good old GoPro. Yep. Just wish I had a camera that worked. But anyways, to finish my thought there, because I think you probably missed the end of it, is so we'll just disconnect all the leads here, bundle them up with the bungee balls and the Ziplocs, pull this battery out, lower the new one in, and hook those back up, and then we'll move on to the next one. All right, so I just realized that I probably just need to make mention of this. Once again, you're doing this at your own risk. You know, this is 12 volt power, but you need to respect it, and obviously you don't want to blow any fuses. Most people know that if you come in contact with the positive side to the frame of the trailer or even the shell of the trailer, that is completing a circuit, right? You have the negative is ground, which is chassis. So that's not such a big deal. But whenever you're working with the positive side of the battery or any positive leads, you need to be very careful not to swing your wrench around. And I didn't do it because I know better. But look that up if you need further explanation. I really can't explain it any easier than that. But if you need more confidence in what you're doing, so just, I'm using a socket here. It's a 16 millimeter, by the way. If you're replacing your factory batteries, that should still apply. But yeah, don't ever touch anything other than just what you're working on when you're dealing with the positive side of the battery. So there's a battery with everything zip-locked up with the bungee balls, and all the terminals are disconnected, and so we're going to go ahead and lift this out. So we have the battery out, and I was looking for a manufacturing date on this particular battery, but I wasn't able to find one. So that I would have found that to be pretty interesting if I could have, but either way, we know it's bad and it's not holding a charge anymore. So I wanted to show you into the battery box here. I think you can see pretty good still with that light kind of bouncing down there. As you can see, like the pan there is rusty in the bottom, and I know some of you might be tempted to go ahead and take some Rust-Oleum and spray that, but honestly, it's not necessary. If I thought it would be worth the time doing it, I definitely would. The best thing that you can do is to use fluid film, because what is happening here is there's water that's sitting in here, and actually the batteries are slightly shifting as you go down the road, and it's wearing right through that paint. And some of that actually is sometimes when they drill holes to mount things like this Zamp, they leave all the shavings in there, and then the shavings rust, and they actually attack the paint as well, because that's the way things are done. Nothing is done the right way. They literally just drill holes and leave all the shavings in there and move on. In fact, I see a couple of shavings right here, which just backs up my theory. So there was a colony of stink bugs in there, so I vacuumed those out as well. If you live in Ohio, you know what that's all about. But yeah, I'm just going to spray that AMS oil heavy-duty metal protector in there, and this is not going to rust again. Once again, you can use the fluid film. It works just as good, and does not conduct electricity as well. So that's your best bet. It will literally make this never rust again. All right, so I have both the batteries here to compare to each other, and we can see that they are of similar height if this was on that pad. Let me move that over a little bit here. Sorry about the camera work, but I do want to show you. Now, sorry, I can maybe edit this. Yeah, I'm sure I can. Okay, all right, so work with me here. So you can see they are almost exactly the same height. As far as width goes, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Let's see. Once again, bear with me. Let's just lift it up and put it right on end here. We'll see what it looks like width-wise. Yeah, look at that. So it's about the same width. And what I can tell you, you're gonna get your workout today a little bit, but the Odyssey battery is significantly heavier. I'm not going to weigh them because, who cares really, right? It is what it is. But I want to let you know that they are heavier, and they advertise that when you pick up an Odyssey battery, that the quality because of how much lead that they put in them, and you can definitely feel it. It's a solid battery. I'd say about a third more almost. I'm just guessing, right? Picked it up, picked the other one up, picked it up, picked the other one up, that type of thing. It's about a third heavier. So it is shorter though. So in case you missed that the first time, The one difference would be is that the Odyssey battery is shorter, and yet still heavier. So one of the things, the reason why I wanted to point this out to you was because, as you can tell, like in the battery box, and I did spray that the AMS metal protector HD in there, you're going to want to justify these batteries to the front, unless you're a serious hot rodder and you think it might, you're going to gun it with your travel trailer behind you that much to actually make it slide backwards. Most likely what is going to happen though is you're going to hit your brakes at a stoplight or something like that, and a little bit heavier than you wanted to, and these batteries could slide, or they will slide, I should say. So they're going to slide forward. Go ahead and justify them forward in the battery box, and that way they won't slide anymore. All right, so another aspect of putting these batteries on charge is, and we're gonna install this one first, just to be clear, the one that we have on the higher amperage Genius battery charger, and I'll tell you why, is because it's putting 3.5 amps in there. The initial voltage of this battery was 12.2, and maybe I'll switch these chargers while I go eat lunch and then actually put that one in there because it started off at a higher voltage. I'd put the multimeter on this battery here, and it actually was reading like 13.02, 13 volts, and a lot of you might be saying, oh, well, that battery's still good. But no, it's about capacity. Once they've been abused, the voltage will still kind of read, pretty decent. That's why you can't really tell by the amount, but it's after a period of time has went by with the loads, and then how fast the voltage drops kind of tells you what the capacity of the battery has been reduced to. And what we have found is that we really can't be unplugged for really any period of time without it just dropping down, and that's just going to be a bad day. So we're being a little bit of preemptive here by replacing them. But so what I'm getting at here though is because we don't want, voltage is about potential, and I might be far off base on this, but I'd rather this battery kind of basically come up to like 13 volts before I end up putting it in the tray here, because we're gonna maintain the old battery in there, and then we're gonna have the new battery in there, and they're gonna be wired in parallel. So I'd rather the potential or the voltages be close to each other, just so that it doesn't try to balance. And I think some of you will probably agree with my assessment when it comes to that. Others might be like, yeah, you're just like shooting in the dark. But I know a little bit about batteries from my U.S. Navy submarine days, and then also just as a hobbyist, as an RC hobbyist. So, batteries will balance out. They will self-balance. And, that I don't really want to stress out the new battery by, it taking a charge from this other battery so much. So, yeah, so I'm going to go have some lunch. We'll actually put the other battery on there, which started off at, at a stronger charge already at a higher voltage. And we'll let it charge for about an hour or so, and then come back and install this battery. Let me mention another indicator to us. As an Airstream owner, this is kind of helpful because I see this as something mentioned quite often about their zip-D awning only partially deploying, and people don't know why that's occurring. We actually had this happen to us until we figured out what had happened. We had moved from one spot to the other, and I was setting up at the next spot. So our fans and our lights had kind of been on for a little bit, and I had overlooked the fact that I hadn't plugged in our shore power. It was a pretty hot day. We had the fans going, the lights were on, we're deploying the awning, I'm trying to get everything set up. For some reason, that's usually one of the first things that I do, is to get the shore power hooked up, just for that reason, to keep the batteries from being discharged. But we weren't unplugged that long at all, and the battery voltage had dropped to like it must have been, I think it was below 12 volts. And here I'm fighting with the awning. I'm thinking, oh man, something's wrong with our awning, just like everybody talks about. And not saying that they don't have valid points sometimes, but in this case, it was literally just low voltage, and the batteries had discharged in that short period of time. So that's kind of one of those things where I was like, all right, when we get home, we're going to need to replace these batteries, because I mean, we must have just been unplugged for like 15 minutes or so. And so if we're going down the road and, obviously we have our DC to DC charger, but let's say we're just plugged, sitting somewhere like without the truck running, and we're in getting groceries or something for a half an hour. Next thing you know, our fridge is going to stop working. It's just not worth it, and then lose maybe some beef in there or whatever. So I know I was long-winded with that explanation, but if you end up seeing your awning not deploying, check your battery voltage. That might end up being the cause. And also keep in mind too that if it doesn't seem like you were unplugged that long and your battery voltage dropped that quickly, and then your awning's not deploying, that might be an indicator also for you that your batteries have reached the end of their life, and so you're going to really want to pay attention to them. So I had the battery in there, and I kind of realized some workmanship that was not really the best with this installation. And what I'm talking about is Airstream's decision to basically rivet this solar plug in. I'm glad they used rivets and not screws, but I don't see how this hasn't been an issue in the past. So as the battery's going down the road, the potential for it to basically rub a hole through the case, I think, is just too great for me to be comfortable. So I've decided to use this highly or dense foam, I should say, not very compressible foam. It's non-conductive, obviously, and I'm going to put it down on this side of the battery to basically keep this battery from basically coming into contact with those rivets that are down in there. And maybe you can make them out. I think you can, barely. 3 silver rivets there that holds on this solar plug. So yeah, not a good design whatsoever. They should have done that differently. Yeah, so anyways, that's how you can fix that. I was going to wait till the end to talk about this, but I think this is a good time talking about our foam insulation. And you can see there I just put those 2 pieces. That'll keep that from walking its way into those rivets. And I might be doing overkill. That's kind of the way I'd like to do things. So, I think everybody has heard how, I have this wrong with my RV, and it's going to take like 2 weeks to 4 weeks for me to get into my local RV dealership, or I'm out in Yellowstone and the nearest RV dealership says it's going to be 3 weeks before they get me in. And, that's never a good day, right? I think that this is what I suggest. It's do what you can do and what you're comfortable doing. There's nothing wrong with paying other people to do things like replace your batteries if you don't feel comfortable doing it. But if you think that you could take your time and educate yourself and then do it yourself, there's 2 huge benefits in my opinion, and I've always had this theory about this. I like paying people for for their profession to feed their families. Never had an issue with that whatsoever, because that's how I make my money, and we should think of it that way. But if you know how to replace your batteries yourself and you've done it before, that day that is going to come when you are on the road and you need to replace your batteries, it's not going to be nearly as big of a deal, especially if you're a full-timer and that day is surely going to come when you're away from home, because it is your home, or away from a dealership. 2, I think the other thing is that if you educate yourself on how to do a job, whether it be to do an oil change or something like this, think about what we have done here, or what I've done, and you've come along for the journey. We have vacuumed out stink bugs. We have sprayed oil. into the bottom of our battery box. Well, not oil, but you know what I'm talking about, the metal protector. And now we have basically just taken one extra step to make sure that we're not going to have a bad day if those rivets were to drive a hole into the side of our battery case and make our battery no longer usable. So if you think necessarily that an RV dealership is going to do any of that, I think you're mistaken. There's always the exceptions. I'm not saying that people don't do good work on a regular basis when people aren't looking. But if it's something that is not expected of them and is sometimes above and beyond, they're there to get paid and get the job done as quick as possible. And if it wasn't done that way in the first place, they're not going to do it for you. So just keep that in mind. You're always going to be the best person to do your own work because you're going to do it the best you can, hopefully. Take your time and do it right. Fluid film comes in handy. And so I'm going to show you the can here of the fluid film and also show you where to use it. It is highly recommended by the product manufacturers to be used on terminals, on battery terminals, because it is non-corrosive and non-conductive, and it will keep your terminals from oxidizing. So highly recommend it. There was a couple reasons why I chose this particular battery. Not only the fact that it's a 24 series, but also it is a 24 series with threaded studs as well as your normal terminal lugs. So it has dual, lugs basically, which really comes in handy for connecting both the main feeds and then any other accessories that you have, like a TPMS repeater, which is what I have currently on here. Also, from the factory itself, they actually do have some of these connections made as well, so you are going to need to have it with this. The factory uses a threaded lug and a single lug. I think it's a little too busy, personally myself. I don't really like it. I think this looks better, and I think it's a better installation as well. All right, we're going to wrap this video up. So I think it went really well. The biggest thing is just take your time and try to organize the cables as best as possible. I think they're more organized than they were before. Keep in mind there's a few additional things in here than you may have, like the TPMS transmitter. I like using these bungee balls quite a bit to organize cables like this because you can take them loose when you want to, and I think they do a better job of like cinching the cables down. Also, just because the balls there are pointed up towards the lid, that will kind of keep anything from rubbing up against the lid as well. The batteries fit in there very good. I think the model is the correct model for you to buy. And one of the things too, as I went to test it, the way that I tested it was I didn't plug anything in. I didn't plug shore power in. I left everything unplugged, including the DC to DC charger, and then went in and tested what the voltage was to see if it made sense, which it did. So I recommend doing that before you introduce anything else. One thing I am going to do next is I'm going to check the voltage to see if the voltage went up because of the converter, to make sure that the converter is still charging. And then I am going to pull the Airstream out in the sun and make sure that the solar controller charger is still putting a charge into the batteries as well. So I'll turn all the lights on, I'll turn the fridge on, and I'll make sure that the voltage goes down, and then I'll watch the voltage go back up, because the only thing that will be charging the trailer at that point in time with the DC-DC charger unplugged would have to be the solar controller. So I just want to make sure I didn't pop any fuses in the process, and I recommend you to go through this diagnostic process as well, just to make sure that you in fact did not pop any fuses while you were hooking it up. Just, like I said, take your time. If you have any comments or suggestions that people can do differently than what I did, make sure to put them in the comments below, and make sure to like this video if you did like me showing you how I put the Odyssey batteries into the Airstream, and make sure to subscribe. We're always doing new modification videos all the time, and also doing reviews of campgrounds as well. So I'll look forward to seeing you in the next one, and everybody get out there and have some fun.